I shoot raw. Jared Poland, Fro Knows Photo.com, and here is the photo of the week. I was in South Carolina. Actually, Greg and I were in South Carolina for a wedding back in 2008, September 26th. Also want to give a shout out to Tim and Amanda, who this wedding was for. They actually just had their first child. They had a daughter yesterday on July 4th. So congratulations goes out to them. So, beautiful day in South Carolina. It was a very nice area that we were shooting at. There was such a nice backdrop, a nice river, just a lot of green in the not in the river itself, but there were high reeds in the water and a really deep background. There was also shipping lanes in the background. You could see the big cranes, but if you worked around that, it was easy to work around, especially when you're blowing the background out. You wouldn't be able to see what was going on. But there was a nice porch, a nice overhang, really large for people to hang out on. I guess, in the South, if it rains, you could still sit outside under the porch and just hang out on the rocking chairs because that's what was there. So there were, a bunch of kids at the wedding, and kids always make for great candid moments. So this image was shot Nikon D3 with a Nikon 300 2.8 AFS, version 1, ISO 500, 1/800th of a second at f3.2 at 300 millimeters. Keep in mind that the 800th of a second is to compensate for the long focal length, because anything slower than 300th of a second, you can start to get blur, movement in the image because the light travels through the lens. But if there's handshake, then, you sort of get a doubling of the image sometimes. And I've seen it in my lens myself. That's probably where the VR comes in handy when you're shooting at slower shutter speeds with the 300 2.8, but obviously I don't have one of those yet. 3.2 gave me a little bit of extra focus room. I'm focused on the left eye here, which is the shadow eye. I usually like to focus on the non-shadow eye, but they're both very sharp in this image, which is key. The eye is key. And look at the framing here. I still kept her father in the image, and she is off to the right-hand side. So I utilized composition, rule of thirds, to keep the subject off to the right third of the frame as she was looking back at me. Now, there's no directing going on here because I'm pretty far away, and she's just probably looking at my hair because it was up for that day. But yeah, the framing is important. Look how I actually kept the father in the frame. I still have his eye, his face, most of his face, so you can see who it is. But it's always good to get both of them in the same frame because it just adds some context. It's the father, it's the daughter. But look how solid it is. Look how the background blows out and separates the subject from the background. The eyes pop. Little kids usually have these awesome eyes that pop. So her eyes popped, and they just look really cool. So I like this image. That's obviously why I picked it. But look at, keep in mind when you're shooting about the framing and how you want to frame your image when you're looking through. I didn't cut off anything integral to the image. I'm not a big fan of cutting things off, like fingers or body parts. Here, there's a little bit of hair cut off at the top and on the side, but the main focus is her face. So that is what I focused in on, and that's how I framed it. Again, it's not cropped, as always, not cropped, framed properly in the camera, shot raw, tweaked, pumped up, and there's a whole raw discussion going on here. I had a discussion last night with a guy who shoots JPEG, which is fine, but I think we're all afraid of things that we've never used before. Like, I was always afraid of shooting flash because I didn't know how to use it, so I didn't like it. But now that I know how to use it, there's certain times where it is very useful. So that holds true with, RAW is, to me, always useful. It's not just about getting it right in the camera. That defense that, I get it right in the camera, that's not always true. That's not the point of the RAW file. And also, when people say it's just about the white balance tweaking, you can tweak JPEG files. You can tweak the white balance. You can tweak everything that you tweak in the RAW file, you can tweak with the JPEG. But when you go from the original file, which is RAW, and then you convert to a JPEG, you're not doing anything wrong with the RAW file. But if you save over a JPEG file that you created and you make changes to it and it's destructive, then you keep compressing and compressing and compressing a file. But hey, this isn't about RAW versus JPEG. That's coming up next week, the week of July 12th, the whole week dedicated to RAW versus JPEG. So back to this image. Beautiful, soft shot, tweaked, pulled back. Actually, I didn't pull back too far on the clarity, which are your mid-tone sharpening. It didn't really need it. She's very soft in this image, and it's just, look at the eyes, and look at the catch light coming from under, well, we're under the porch, but you can see off to the right-hand side, that's where the sky is. So it just lit her face very well. It's nice and even and soft, and it's just tweaked very well. So there you have it. This is the photo of the week for July 5th. I am Jared Poland, FroKnowsPhoto.com, and I forgot to mention in the weekly update, there is a Lil video coming this week. I didn't write it down, but it is there. Catch you later. Bye. Get your free ebook.